all of our friends at local IQ magazine. Siobhan Otero
Hello,
is the
morning.
arts contributor, our culture vulture. Siobhan, how are you? It's good to see you again.
Good, nice to see you guys. So have you guys been to Tinkertown Museum?
It's been a few years, but I have.
And you guys know that it's a magical place. It's really cool. The first time I went there was years ago with my friend Alex, and I felt like I was walking into somebody's daydream. You know, they have a bunch of little miniature figurines, Esmeralda the fortune teller, and my favorite part was this construction of 50,000 colored glass bottles, and when the light shines through, it looks really gorgeous. And then you walk outside, and there's a 32-foot old wooden sailboat that's been on a 10-year voyage around the world. So it's full of eccentric, groovy things, and if you think it's cool as a museum, imagine growing up there, which is where our guest, Tanya Goodman, spent much of her youth with her father, Ross Ward, who's the creator of Tinkertown. And after graduating from Northwestern University, Tanya pursued her writing career in Los Angeles, where she lives today with her husband and her 2 kids. But she had to periodically return to New Mexico when her father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in '98 at the age of 57 and passed away in 2002. So she's written a touching and wonderful story about her dad and this experience in her book called Leaving Tinkertown, through which she was the 2008 winner for the Southwest Writers Conference Storyteller Award. And she's been published in Brainchild Magazine, Huffington Post, Literary Mama, and she's a regular contributor to Urban Dweller section of thenextfamily.com. And she's returned to New Mexico and the green chili.
Your timing's good, by the way.
Rose season. So she's going to be reading throughout Albuquerque and Taos this week and next, and she's joined us on the show here this morning to share more about her story. So
we're glad to have you, Tanya. Thank you. To give everybody a better perspective of this, we have a very touching little video vignette we want to share, and then we're going to have a conversation, okay? Watch this, everyone. Nice family portrait there at the end. Tanya, welcome. It's great to meet you.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
So I have to mention that that music is her brother Jason Ward. We've had him here on before.
Yes.
He does my tattoo.
Yes.
So we had him. He's the owner of
We met him.
Oh, so cool.
So special,
I thought there was
The whole
something.
family.
I'm meeting the whole family now.
You are. We're all going to pile down here.
The one quote from the book, somebody that was reviewing it there, they said, an eccentric childhood.
Yes.
Is that how you'd describe it?
I would, although I think I describe it as eccentric now, not when I was in it.
Because it was just normal.
Totally normal. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if I look at it from the outside and living in Los Angeles now, and I say like, oh yeah, like we used to do, you know, whatever, we'd have these arts and crafts fairs, or my dad would like light things on fire in the yard and build bottle walls. They go, what? And I'm like, yeah, that is just how it was. But it's become eccentric. But I don't think it was when I was a kid. It just was.
What's been like the reaction to the book then? Has it just been crazy? I mean, it just came out, right?
It just came out, and it's been sort of a slow build. It's a small press. It's the University of New Mexico press, and so we're sort of slowly getting, this is the first kind of outing of the book, but I have a fairly large circle in Los Angeles, and people have been like, I had no idea you came from this, and like, wow, and I don't know, the coolest thing is that people have been saying, you know, your dad was so cool. I love your dad. I love your family, and I love my family. So it's really neat to have other people realize, wow, that's, without even knowing them.
Is this Tinkertown Museum, is that a kind of a hobby or collection that got way out of control?
Well,
is that how it got started?
It's definitely, I think it's out of control in a way, but my dad was always in control of out of control. He had a very clear vision of what he wanted to be and what he wanted to do with his life. He went to Knott's Berry Farm when he was, like 9 years old, and said, I want to have this. I want this. And so he just kept working toward it and figuring out more ways that he could kind of run his own thing, and it just was fortuitous that he bought the house in the Sandias. There had been a taco stand at the top of the driveway, so it was grandfathered in that it has a business license, which was just like, oh my gosh, it was just destined, meant to be for him.
Sure.
So is it the same as when your dad passed away, or did you guys have you kept adding on, or is it?
We haven't added on. It's pretty much the same, although a lot of people come by and bring things and send things, and so little things continue to get added on, I think, but no major new exhibits. It's just really now it's maintenance, and because he built it, it's in a kind of haphazard way. Yeah. I think it's hard to maintain. It's a living thing that was, wire coat hangers and thread spools and all of these things that you're sort of like, how do you repair? Yeah. Where do we get another? They don't even make wooden thread spools anymore,
When did you, as you got older and matured, when did you realize this is just part of your legacy?
I think I always understood it in a way that this is my family. Like, these are my people, and this museum is really become. I mean, it's what is my dad. I mean, my kids know my dad because of this museum. Like, he had passed away before they were born, and it took them a long time to even kind of understand that he was gone. I remember my son saying, like, when I think he was 4 years old, he said, well, it's weird, we don't see Grandpa Ross anymore. I said, honey, you've never seen Grandpa Ross. Yeah. But, he felt him so much.
Felt like his grandfather was alive and living through the museum.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's now, and I think writing the book and really after we kind of went through the illness and really dug into it, and we kind of realized, wow, this thing that we have here in this beautiful museum, and the way that it draws so many interesting people, and there's just this great crossroads of humanity that comes through the door. Wow, I mean, it's really a wonderful testimony to who my dad was. Yeah.
And what was probably the most difficult part of writing this book? Was your dad?
I think it was hard to write about just such a difficult time without it seeming like, oh, poor us, and oh, tragedy, and oh my gosh, and crying. And I think at a certain point, the book was like 400 pages long, and a really dear friend of mine said, hey, you should search the word crying. You'll probably lose about 50 pages. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And so I think it was hard to kind of pull back and really dig out the story, because it was very, very emotional, and you feel like everything belongs in here, and I think I put it together first in the way that Dad put the museum together, like, oh, I love that, and I love that too, and I'm going to put it all in, like, oh. So it was very hard to kind of pull it away and really focus, and now I feel like it's a really focused sort of journey. It is what it is now that, I don't know.
The irony of your father getting Alzheimer's and not being able to relate to or remember what he created is you described a man who had great vision and thought about and dreams and to have him slip away that way is the ironic tragedy, and I know that's reflected in the book.
It is.
And you said that was, kind of part of his personality, of just always having something new and surprising, and that so it reflected in that in a beautiful way still.
It was. Even during when he was more and more ill,
Yes.
it was sort of his delight in all the things he'd made. It was sort of like, wow, like look at this, and he would like haul stuff out that he'd had for 20 years and go, well, I just made this, and people would come down the driveway
That's
and they don't know, and they'd go, wow, that is awesome.